Hello, everybody. I'm Margaret, and welcome to the Boboleros podcast. This is a podcast primarily about knitting, but also inspiration from the world of the classical arts, music, literature, design, film, and all that jazz. Well, welcome. It's been a long time since we met, a good 3 months. So in this episode, I just want to catch you up, what I've been doing, why I've been gone for 3 months, where have I been, what have I been doing, and also catch you up on some long-awaited knitting content. Okay, so let's get started. First off, I want to thank you for returning and remembering me. Hello, I still am here, although I know I've been like buried under a hole, under a rock somewhere the last 3 months. So the reason why is because I was writing a book. And here it is. It finally just was released this week, and it's called Love Notes: Enter into Intimacy with God Through the Door of Classical Music. Now, that's a subject that I have been passionate about for many, many years. It's been a topic of my piano playing and a lot of the things I do in the piano realm. I want to have it up, but I don't think I could find the space. So, okay, I'll just let it go. But if you allow me a few minutes just to talk about it, because I'm passionate about sharing this, because these days science is verifying what many musicians have known instinctively for a long time, and what the Bible does say, which is that sound and music is powerful. So science is now reaffirming that it's powerful medicine, and we're getting back to the fusion of powerful anointed sound with specific patterns and orders and frequencies, and how that amplifies the Word of God. It becomes even more optimized. And I've just had so many experiences of the classical music when used with intent and with opening up deeper levels of engagement through deep listening. There have been cases of incredible healings. I have a story of a friend of mine who had breast cancer and the tumor shrank. I have another testimonial of someone with a chronic condition called ankylosing spondylitis. I can't say it, but it's debilitating, and how the frequencies and the sounds helped alleviate that kind of chronic condition, as well as chronic pain and infections and things like this. So I'm super pumped to share the message, and I thought, and this is specifically regarding the composer JS Bach, and he had a great faith in God, and every composition he wrote, he signed it SDG, to God alone the glory. And this is the greatest music ever. You couldn't ask any musical expert, and it's impossible to surpass what Bach created. And there's so much symbolism in his music. There's so many, it's like he took Bible passages and he encoded them in sound. It blows the mind what he was able to do. And if you allow me a few minutes, I want to show you something very cool in one of his pieces that demonstrates this, and why it is medicine for our body, mind, and soul. So I want to show you really quickly, and we're going to get to the knitting content. I'm going to put a timestamp, but I'm just so excited to share this with you. So here is an example of Bach's personal seal. So he created this image himself, and it looks beautiful. It's like a branding, like a logo, you would call it, maybe a seal, like something that says, this is my emblem, this is what is me, and it's so powerful that it looks just like a beautiful image, but there's so much more behind it. So some of the things we see inside of it are his initials, JSB. And then here, the same initials backwards. Why am I bringing this up? Is because this is a representation of what his music is like. There's so many patterns, and as knitters, we are pattern focused. So this music is a synergy with that kind of thing. So when he writes the backwards initials, it says that that was a symbol. And it means that his initials are mirrored backwards to symbolize that Bach had turned from his sins to the saving grace of Jesus Christ. So it was his mission statement. This is why he was writing music. But it doesn't end there. So if we go a little deeper into exploring this emblem, we see in the middle a cross. And for that symbol, what Bach wanted to advertise with this is that he was a cross bearer himself. So he took that from Matthew chapter 16:24. Then Jesus said unto his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. So another very important part of the intention behind this man and his music, it was for one reason alone, for the audience of one. And his duty was to glorify God in the music. And it has powerful effects when we listen to it. So the last thing I'd like to share is the crown on top of this emblem. And that also, there's numbers and gematria, the pairing of numbers and letters in the Hebrew that make powerful symbolism as well. So the crown is made up of 12 precious stones, and that's from Revelations in the Bible, grouped as 7, the number of completion. And the stones are set in a crest of 5, the number of Christ's passion. So there's meaning, so much meaning in classical music. And so with the Love Notes book, it's the first of what I'm hoping to be a series where the meaning, the deeper meaning of classical music is explored for spiritual edification, for physical and mental restoration and healing. And because there is a depth of meaning that I think is not even taught. I went to music schools and this was never taught. What was taught was the execution, the playing of the pieces and interpreting them, but the deeper meaning, which is the driver, which is the reason for doing, was never discussed. And so I'm passionate about bringing this discussion to the table. So with the Love Notes book, which you could get if you're interested in finding out more about it, it's on my website, which I'll link below, margaretwasick.com. I'm also creating a group to go deeper where we can explore these things. And one of the things I want to share with you is how Bach incorporates supernaturally. It's hard to even imagine how he does this. But in a piece of music, I'm going to take, for example, his prelude in C major, which is a familiar piece for most of us. I'll play it. It's only a couple of minutes long. But afterwards, I would like to show you how he incorporates the fingerprint of God, which in mathematics, people have called it the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio. It's the thing that, like, everyone from Da Vinci to our even iPhones here are based on the Fibonacci numbers. It's what we deem beautiful and what nature shows us in the pattern of flowers and petals and the growth of trees. It represents a law of nature's design. And somehow Bach miraculously incorporates this into his piece, and I'll show you how. So if you'll bear with me, I promise it's only a couple minutes long, and then we'll get to the knitting content. Okay, here we go. Okay, so as you hear this piece, it's traveling in these beautiful undulating waves, right? And you hear the harmonies. They start out pretty calm, and then as the piece goes on, it gets a little bit more and more intensified. And so Bach uses the Fibonacci numbers to demonstrate, to compose the structure in this piece. And he puts the place of most harmonic climax in the spot where is the Fibonacci number. And it's very similar to when we frame a photograph and we have those grids on our phones and they show you where to put the subject in those intersection points. And usually it's either on the 1/3 or 2/3 part. It's very rarely in the center unless it's a specific type of framing. But usually, like, so even I realize I should be like framed more here, but anyway. But in any case, it's so hard to imagine in this, when you have a blank piece of manuscript paper and you know that the piece, you have a basic idea of how long it should be as a composer, but to actually on purpose make the high point at a place where a Fibonacci number occurs, to me is unfathomable. But again, Bach's genius was unfathomable. And I don't want to go on and on, but in the book I say something like, I mention some incredible numbers, like for instance, the fact that he wrote enough music that it would take anybody working full-time, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, just copying the music that he left, it would take somebody 50 years just to copy it. And Bach died when he was 65 years old. So what's amazing about this is that when he died, at least half, if not more, of his compositions were just lost. It was such neglect. But Bach was not very, like, they called him old-fashioned when he died. And so they didn't take precautions to save these masterpieces. And there's some stories that even fish was being wrapped in his manuscripts, and manuscripts being used as kindling for fire. So it's horrific to imagine that such genius was, and such pieces of magnificence were lost to the world. And so that's 50% was lost. And what is left would take somebody 50 years working full-time to write. So it really defies any normal convention of thinking in rational ways. It's supernatural. Okay, so in the Fibonacci sequence, if you're not familiar with it, you could look it up. It's just a simple but yet very profound numeric order, and any two numbers next to one another, if you divide them by each other, you'll always get the number 1.666. So this piece of music has 35 measures, and it's exactly at measure 21 where things, which start off simply, but then by the time we get to measure 21 is when he starts intensifying and moving the music forward at a new pace. And what is fascinating is if you take the number 35, the total number of measures, and you divide it by 21, which is where that spot of intensification starts, well, that is the number 1.666, which is the golden mean. Like, how is this even possible? I don't know. But if you're into this sort of thing, then I invite you to check out the book. It's called Love Notes. It's on margaretwasick.com. We also have a community component, which is red hot. We are going deep in that community. And also, if you'd like to follow me on my Instagram page, Margaret Wasick, I am doing a 40-day devotional for Lent, which incorporates Bach's music and some biblical scriptures and prayers and words by the 19th century theologian Charles Spurgeon. So, okay, onwards to music. Boy, that was long. I'm excited and grateful for your listening. Thank you. Okay, so where we left off with my knitting in December was that I was embarking on another shrug, and it was the Advent shrug, Jackie Rose's pattern. And I'll tell you the truth. I am not a person, at least I thought I wasn't the type of person that can pace myself, because the idea with the Advent shrug was to take the days of December leading up to Christmas and 24 days, and each day do one row of color. And so I didn't think I would be able to do that kind of pacing. I'm a little bit all or nothing kind of personality, for better, for worse. Usually, like, I'll plunge into something and, you know, I'll feverishly work until it's done. I don't really do well in piecemeal, but I said, you know what? I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to do an Advent. I'm going to see what that feels like to every day have a little bit. And you know what? I was super surprised. I loved it. I loved the ritual of that. And I didn't think I would be able to sustain it. I thought I would give up, or the pace would kind of like make me forget and move on to other things. But no, it was awesome. I learned something about taking that mindful approach every day and making something into a ritual. And this truly became, for me, that moment of ritual. So about the yarn, you might have remembered that in the fall, I had a collection called Calibration in Progress, and it had 24 colors in it. So I had all 24 colors, and I was very curious for two reasons. I wanted to see how these colors would all look together, because when I created them, I had a certain palette in mind, and although I never thought of them like all together, how they would be, doing this shrug gave me an idea of what that would be. So that was one major motivator for me. And the second motivator was just to have a commemorative memento of that, because that was a big deal for me to dye 24 colors, and I spent a great deal of my summer doing that, creating the formulas and getting the yarn ready, and that was for Cakepalooza and for the online collection. And so I wanted to commemorate this big deal for myself. And so that's why I was excited to do it. But I had to break some skeins, and so I had enough yarn left over to make 6 other kits, which I shared with some of my viewers. So I'm excited. If you got yours and you made yours, I'd love to see it. Anyway, so here is mine. And I finished this bad boy back in December. It was all ready for Christmas, and I realized I never posted pictures. I never did anything with it. I never even wore it. So let me just put it on. Let me put it on now and see what it's like. And this is now, we are entering what I call shrug weather, because it's that transitional time. And yeah, okay. So I purposely wore black today to kind of show off these colors. So this is it. What do you think? I mostly did according to pattern, and there were some moments where I think I went off script, off the pattern. Like, I think here I was supposed to do more rows of the black, which was my kind of base color, but I don't know. I just went with the flow. I think I love it. I really do. This is the type of piece that I believe would probably be best with a very monochromatic outfit. you know, just like one color, or jeans and a t-shirt, you know, something, because this is like truly the showstopper. But I used a, was it DK? No, I think I used fingering doubled. I think that's what I did. Yeah, I think I doubled the fingering for this, and I didn't, usually I put an add-on like a mohair or an alpaca, but I didn't do that for this. And I love the fit, I love the color play. I kind of rolled with it. To be honest, actually, I had a certain setup at Cake Palooza. I don't know if you visited the booth, you might have seen that I had all 24 colors arranged in a particular numerical order, and I went with that. So my first color was this one, which was ruby, and then I went into cheeky, this pink, soft pink was sister, Audrey's coat, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, it was fun. What can I say? It was fun, and I learned that I like the idea of just doing a little bit, and it kind of makes everything doable, because that 20 minutes or half hour that it took to knit those 7 rows, I think, or whatever it was one of my favorite moments of the day. I actually did it in the morning, and I started off my day, and I just got my 7 rows in. And sometimes at night, I would just get started on my next days too, if I had time. So that's how I did it. Anyway, another shrug. And I think I'll keep making more, because we all want, I don't know, I've been into accessory knitting so much in the last few months. And it's probably been because I didn't have the bandwidth to make an epic sweater. Just too many things going on. And so I've been doing accessories. So the shrug was one. And then what's on my needles now is another Jackie Rose pattern, which is the Skinny Pop, which is a sweater, a scarf. So this is pretty long, pretty long already, as you could see. So I've had some little yarn snafus. So I had a kit of my own yarn. This is the color Baltic, I think. Anyway, it was a dark blue. And it was a DK that I held together with an alpaca. And so I started it, and what I didn't bank on was the fact that because I was using thicker yarn, that my width might be bigger than suggested. So when I started, I realized, will that look funny? Like once it's double wrapped, because it's meant to be like super long and double wrapped. I thought, would that be just like too much fabric? So I don't think you could see it, but I decreased because I think I started with, I don't know, at least 4 too many stitches. So I tried to gradually decrease so it would be more narrow. By the time it gets here, if you could tell, it's more narrow. But I don't think anybody's gonna see that. But in any case, that's what I did. I snuck in some decreases because I was not going to tink back. No. Anyway, I was using a gradient kit that I made with, the gradient starts from softest pink and it goes to a very deep, almost plum raspberry. This isn't the darkest, but it's getting close to the edge of the darkest. And I mean, I really started this because I got a jacket, which I wore in one of my Instagrams, and it was this exact color. And then, oh my gosh, okay. So I have to now segue to when I was at Vogue Knitting Live. All right, so I didn't even talk to you. I'll show you some of the yarn I got at Vogue Knitting Live, which I can't believe was 2 months ago. But anyway, I was paying for some yarn at that Lily Loops booth, which was phenomenal. I loved her booth. Anyway, I'm paying for yarn there, and I turned to the customer that was next to me online, and it was a beautiful woman, and she was wearing the most incredible color coat. It was like this I don't know, clay, brown, terracotta. It was so perfect on her. And I said, oh my gosh, that coat looks incredible on you. And she was buying a bunch of lime green yarn. And I said, that's my kind of gal. Lime green, sign me up. And so it was like thick yarn. It was just so cool. And she was so cool. And so I told her, I said, I love this color on you. And she said, I had my colors done. I said, what do you mean by this? And she said that she went to see somebody in California who was a color analyst and, you know, which season she is and all this stuff. Now, I grew up with a mom in the 80s that we would never go clothes shopping without my mom bringing her Color Me Beautiful book and swatches. She convinced me that I'm a spring. So all my life, I was under the assumption that I'm a spring and have been dressing accordingly. Spring, spring, spring. And my birthday is in April, so to me it felt right, like I'm a spring. And so I asked the gal next to me at Lily Loops, where did you have your colors read and all this stuff? And she said, you know, she told me, but the person was in California. She said you could find somebody else, but to be honest, some of the AI tools aren't bad either. So I thought to myself, let me try some of the AI tools. And so I downloaded this app called Dressika, Dressika, and I was pretty surprised. So you take a picture of yourself, preferably in your natural light with, I think, no makeup. And this like AI analyzes your skin tones and undertones and all this stuff. And I'm not saying that AI is the way to go, but I just was like, I didn't have it in me to, I just didn't have the bandwidth to go and get color analysis because I was in the middle of book writing, and so I was a mess. So I said, just let me quickly look, you know, to confirm my spring status. And lo and behold, it shoots out that I'm not a spring at all. It shoots out that I'm a warm autumn. And I said, what? It's like finding out you're like, I don't even know. It's like doing one of those DNA tests and you think all along like I'm Polish, and it was like finding out, no, you're not Polish at all. And I'm like, what? I'm not a spring? I was so shocked by that, and I kept redoing it and redoing it, redoing it, taking another picture, redoing it, and it kept spitting out that I'm a warm autumn. And that color palette is totally different than the brights I was used to wearing for my spring palette. I felt like my whole identity had shifted at that point, but in a good way, because I was like, maybe this has been the problem all along. I've been living as a spring when I'm really a warm autumn. Maybe that will explain the problem. So, okay, so now I transitioned my whole life into the warm autumn vibe. You know, I decide to get, like, it's now like after Christmas clearance, I decide to get a coat in a color I would never ever pick out as a spring, thinking it's not my color. And now suddenly I'm like into this like sage green because now I'm firmly into my warm autumnness. And lo and behold, people are like, oh, I love that color on you. I love it. And I'm like convinced, like, this is the ticket. I'm a warm autumn. Everything is lining up. There's a shift. There's a change in the matrix. I am flowing with it. So then I even say, you know, my hair color has to be darker because I am embracing my warm autumnness. Next thing I go get my hair colored, and now it's a bit darker, but I have to confess I had to put some highlights in the front because I couldn't really manage with too much darkness. So anyway, I'm still figuring out the hair thing, but now that it's like 2 months of living in warm autumn, I'm kind of like straddling. I'm like, some days I'm warm autumn, some days I'm embracing my spring, even though it says I'm not. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna be me. So when I was in my warm autumn phase, or pre-warm autumn phase, I bought this jacket, which I love the color raspberry. I love, love, love it, even though it's not really my color. And it was exactly the same color as this. And as you could see, it's not really my shade, but I love the color. And I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to just do it. I'm going to wear raspberry because I love it. And I bought that jacket because I loved it. And then after wearing it a couple times, I said, you know what? I don't think that's my color. Even though this whole scarf, the concept of this scarf was based on wearing it with that jacket. Because I had this totally already like orchestrated that this part would be in like right there with that jacket, with that raspberry jacket would hit me right here. So everybody would be like, how did you match the jacket with that? And I'd be like, well, it's just magic. And you know what? I returned the jacket. I returned the jacket. So now I'm like halfway through this scarf. The jacket is gone. And now I'm thinking, what is this going to go with? Well, it probably will go with some other things, and I'm going to press on. But, you know, a couple of yarn management problems happened, like I ran out of this yarn. And so I had to take some I had in my stash, but it's darker. So you see, this is now happening. So the next half will be darker blue. So now I don't mind it. It's gonna have this like a little bit like, oh, I did that on purpose look. But I didn't. I'm just trying to manage the best I can. So Skinny Pop Scarf, a lovely project, a long project. It's been taking me a long time. I thought this would be done sooner. It's really long. I think once it's done, it's going to be a great piece to have as a staple. Now that we're entering spring, I sort of like have lost motivation. I might still press on because I might be getting my sweater mojo back. Might be. Didn't say for sure I am. But I did see a sweater pattern. My dear friend Yen from Forever Yarn, she just came out with a beautiful sweater pattern that I don't remember the name of it, but I love it. And I might do that just because I need probably a sweater in my life. Yeah. Speaking of sweaters, if you guys remember the Chopin cardigan, I posted about this. It's my own design, and again, this was like in autumn 2024, and I told a lot of people asked about it, like when's it coming out? Well, the good news is it's coming out this spring. And I know I said probably it would be around for January. No, it didn't happen. February, no, it didn't happen. March, probably not. But hopefully by April. It's like the pattern is done. It's like now in the next stages. So I'm hoping to share that with you upcoming, and that will be perfect, kind of knit. And there'll be two versions, a cardigan and also a pullover. So you'll have options for that. So I just wanted to let you know, if you've been inquiring about it, I haven't forgotten. It's just been delayed. So anyway, but I think I'm going to do a sweater next. Yeah. I'm feeling that mojo back. I'm feeling that mojo back. Okay. In the meantime, I have one other thing to share with you, and then like a quick stash acquisition. And then I want to show you a really good thing that I think is a really good thing. Maybe you'll think it's a good thing too. Okay. Let's now, another work in progress. So about a month ago, I had dinner with my dear high school and college friend, Mikiko. And Mikiko has, in the last 2 years, blossomed as a knitter. Like, she is unbelievable. And her sense, her aesthetics are phenomenal. And so we got together for pizza. We went to this great place that opened near both of our houses, like midway, and it's called Italy, and it's the chain that's in New York City, but it's in New Jersey now. So we met up there, and we just had a slice, as you do in Jersey. We had a slice, and we were talking knitting. And I said, Mikiko, what are you knitting? And I was like fully like not in my knitting zone at all, because, you know, again, I was just like fully in the book writing zone. And then she pulls out this piece of magic, and I just was like floored. I said, oh my gosh, this is like beyond belief. So she was knitting this Sophie hood. and she was knitting it in exactly this color. And I completely went berserk. It was incredible. So everybody seems to be knitting this, or at least they were in February, the Sophie hood. And it's like a very long Sophie scarf with a hood, and like super cute. And again, I was totally embracing my warm autumnness when I chose this color, because I said, Mikiko, that's a warm autumn color. I'm so all over it. So I said, what yarn is that? She told me it was the Sadness Garn. And this is it, the Alpaca Wool Sadness Garn, yeah. And this is the color 8051. And just love it because it's a little bit that almost like sea foamy green blue. Absolutely beautiful. So calming, like eucalyptus kind of. And of course, the next day I had to have it. I just was obsessed. After I saw hers, I was literally dreaming about it because it was so scrumptious. Now she was holding one strand of mohair silk, and so I found some in stash, and it's beautiful. And it's exactly the same kind of tone. So I'm holding that with one strand of the mohair silk fingering or lace and getting this fabric, which is so, so pretty. And yeah, so I haven't gotten that far in it. And this is another one of these things. Like now we're gonna be in the 70s next week, I hear. So like a hood and a long scarf, they just don't feel, I don't feel seasonally like appropriate knitting winter stuff. Like I want to break free and knit like a fantastic sweater or some, not a shrug, but like a little bolero or a little cocoa like jacket or something, like to just say, you know, spring, here, I'm here for you, spring. So yeah, I think that's what might have to happen. I might have to put those in a bin saying, time to say goodbye until next year or until September or something. See you in September, something like that. Okay, so that's all I have. And okay, I just wanted to share some stash acquisition that I got in Vogue Knitting Live. So I mentioned Lily Loops, but I don't have that yarn here, so I can't show you, but it was phenomenal. And it was like this fluorescent orange. And I got like 3 skeins of it. It was just absolutely cool. That booth was totally inspired by 70s, 80s records and, you know, disco ball. It was so much fun. And anyway, happy, really super happy. And then here, I stopped at this other booth and found this yarn. I'm not even gonna try to say it. But it's the Criollo sheep have been grazing the countryside of Mexico for hundreds of years. Lovingly tended to by their shepherds and guardian dogs, their wool and meat have provided for the people in their region. Hand wound and hand skeined by Amanda and Alberto, we are privileged to present this very special yarn to you. Yeah, so this is from Prado de Lana. And I really had this idea of doing a colorwork sweater with these two. And now actually that I bring these two together, I thought now like this would be a nice little contrast to go with them. But what sweater, I don't really know. And again, it might not be for this year. But like I love this trio actually. This is like, I was wondering what would be a good third color contrast to go, and now I really know this. I love it. Anyway, beautiful yarn. My daughter Maia came with me to Vogue Knitting, and she got a bunch of this to make a kind of, what do you call it? Like a hood, another type of hood. And I think she went really far with it, but then abandoned. Oh, and there was also another cute hat I want to show you. Hold on. Okay. At Vogue Knitting Live, we had to stop, of course, at the Ikigai booth, and wonderful Pam Powers, so fantastic, and Amy Opie, the designer, behind so many of the patterns there, and the hats are so fun and glorious. And so I got a pattern kit, a hat kit, and also Maia got a hat kit, and hers came out so fantastic. I wish I had a picture, but it's like the swirl hat, and she worked hard on that one. And it had some new techniques for her to learn, and she powered through, and it came out super beautiful. And this is what I knit. And this is the Elements, I believe, hat by Amy Opie. And it came with this adorable little pin. And because I was, again, embracing my warm autumnness, the kit came with black and white, but I was like, okay, no, I have to knit something that's going to go with my sage green coat. And so this was a leftover that I had from another kit last year, and I love the Ikigai colors. They're so wonderful. And this one I think is called Matcha, and it's just a great hat. And I love that it has the double knit, what do you call this thing here? Not the cuff, but you know, the ribbing for the edging here. Yeah, it came out great. So anyway, here's the hat, and it's super warm, and it just is like, I don't know, it's like, we still are windy here, so I'm still wearing it a lot. And it's one of these hats that like, it fits just right because it's snug here in this ribbing part that you want it to be nice and snug. I think I got the, yeah, let me put this here. Came with a pom, and it's just like the right slouch. It's just perfect. It's actually not even slouchy, but Maia's is a little slouchy and super cute. So yeah, so that's what I got, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time. And last but not least, I want to share with you an acquisition that, you know, my last trip to Paris last year, I fell in love with this bag brand for handbags, and it was called Guibert, Guibert. What I love about that brand is that their history is in saddlery, and so the quality is super high-end leather, super high-end, price point surprisingly reasonable, and colors absolutely beautiful. And last year when I was in Paris, my husband and I, we went to the atelier and saw the bags in person, and were able to talk with the people there, and it's just the nicest people. And like, I just, there was an orange there, like they called this Pessoa orange. It was so absolutely beautiful. It was a bit like this color here. Fell in love with that. And they have several different bag options, and there was one there that I tried on in that orange. It was a bowling bag, and there was something about a bowling bag that just kind of, it just screamed retro 70s vibe to me. I passed on that one, and instead got like a tiny little handbag called the Allure handbag. And last year I did a whole video about it on my channel, so you could take a look at that. But you know, it was the middle of January, and I was just like, I need something to keep me going. I incentivize myself to get tasks done, and I'm not ashamed to say I bribe myself. And I said to myself, Margaret, if you finish the book, I'm going to buy you a handbag. That's what I said to myself. And so, boy, I was like in a total slump. But when I told myself, my other self said to my current self, like, you'll get a handbag if you finish this. You should have seen how fast I was typing. You should have seen how fast that came together. So, so once I got the manuscript done, I said, okay, ready for my present. So, I'm sorry, I'm in a weird mood today. So here it is. I went on the Guibert site, and I couldn't choose But then I thought back to that bowling bag and I was like, oh, I love that bowling bag. But then the color became a thing. I was like, I love the orange. Gosh, I love that orange. But will it go with everything? And I'm always into color. And maybe, Margaret, you should be a little bit more neutral. And now that you're a warm autumn, maybe you should like stay in the brown family. Well, that was the road I went. So I want to show you. This is what I got. Yeah, and it is like, I love this bag. Probably more than I ever loved any other bag I've had. And I have been like, it was a toss-up between this one and the Jack bag by Parker Thatch, which I also loved. But there was something more structured about this, and the fact that it had a zipper. I am a zipper person. If a bag is open, don't go that way. No, no. Pickpocketers. I'm always worried about that. Even though I'm living in New Jersey, nobody pickpockets here, but I'm always thinking, if I'm in the airport, if I'm in the city, like, I don't want to have an open bag. And I'm always dropping things, and it's like falling in my car. My bag is like toppling over sometimes, and I don't want contents spilled all over. So I need a zipper. So that was part of what anyway, this is it. And it is so roomy, and it's just a great bag. And the color, I think, I'm still thinking about the orange, I won't lie. But, you know, like the interior, it's so beautifully made. It has this like gorgeous suede inside, and it fits like all the stuff that you want, like book and knitting, and oh my gosh, like even a computer could fit in here. Anyway, I love how it sits high too. And again, like look at the stitching on this. And this is an amazing work, amazing quality work in this brand, Guibert. I love this brand. Again, this bag was about like in the $500 range, and I think it really should be priced much higher than it is, given the quality of it. It's just another level. I've worn this exclusively for 2 months, and it just, you know, it's a workhorse, and it's so well made. Anyway, it makes you feel good to have something of like real quality like this. So if you're in the market for a beautiful handbag and are looking to get really high quality, but at a reasonable price point, then check out Guibert. And they really do fine work. So, okay, so that's about it. We talked music, we talked handbags, we talked knitting. It's been quite a journey, and I thank you for being part of it. Come back next time. Hopefully I'll have more knitting, because now hopefully I'll have a little bit more time to knit, and I really appreciate you. I love this community. I thank you so much for spending time with me today, and see you really soon. Bye.